Nikki, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You are the last one of the Witch Fingers to come on,
Oh
um,
my God.
thus completing all the members. And yeah, so I'm super stoked.
I'm glad I could help you complete your what's a after a trilogy, a quadrilogy?
I'm gonna go with that. I don't know, but that sounds right. But thank you, and thank you to everybody else who has came on and go back and listen to those episodes when you're done with this one.
Check out Josh, Dylan, and Nick's episodes right
Hmm.
now.
Oh, well, after this one,
Okay, yeah,
go and
right,
check it.
right
Yeah,
after this.
yeah, and then listen to all of them. And then come back to this one and check this
Yeah.
one out again. We're trying to get these views up on this one.
Seriously.
Yeah. But starting from the beginning with you, Nikki, do you remember where your wanting or interest in music stems from to the earliest recollection that you have?
That is such a good question.
I appreciate it.
So I was around music my whole life because my dad was a musician. He played keyboards, synthesizers, and he was in a few big bands. He was a touring member of the band Steppenwolf, and he was a touring member of the band Berlin in the
Wow.
80s. And he had just a million bands. He was in a LA punk band called Killer Pussy back in the day. I guess they were new wave. But yeah, he played in bands my entire life. So my mom has like a memory of coming home to me as like a little baby in a car seat, just sitting in the middle of his rehearsal space and being like, "Oh my God, her ears!" Like rescuing me from the practice space. Like you can't have her in a rock and roll practice space. She's a baby. But so I've been around music my entire life and it's in my blood.
Wow. So this is kind of like a new thing for you that you're getting into.
Yeah, I just got into
That,
it.
that's cool to have a new passion. That's always interesting and nice. Um, so at an early age, you're being you're hearing things. You're around it constantly.
Yeah, in the womb. I think my first concert was David Bowie when I was like 3. Like I've been in witnessing and taking in music my whole life and never thought I would ever be someone to play. I always thought, "Oh, I'm an artist. I'm gonna make art. I'm gonna change the world with my graphic design." I thought that I'm gonna be a digital artist. And but yeah, getting playing music is new, but being around music, not new.
By the way, David Bowie first concert. That's a pretty good. It's a pretty good first concert.
Yeah, I remember it too. It was the Glass Spider tour. I think it was down in like San Pedro somewhere. And I remember like looking really far down and seeing a big like spider over the top of the stage. And I turned to my dad and I was like, "What does it all mean?"
And I mean, did David even know?
I bet he was on a lot of cocaine, so who knows?
Good for him. So early on, are you picking up any instruments, or did that come later on?
My family always encouraged me to play piano. I was in piano lessons. I think I took like a guitar lesson. I took like a voice lesson. And like I said, I just was always like, that's because my dad was in bands. I was like, that's old people stuff. Like playing rock and roll and music, that's old people stuff. That's lame. Like I'm not, I'm not gonna do that. This is homework. And I always like didn't want to practice, didn't want to do any work on it. So I just was like, you can't make me. I'm just gonna go draw. But yeah, that was like my childhood, like ages 10. I guess I remember, yeah, I remember really taking a bunch of piano lessons when I was 10. I remember playing violin when I was like in elementary school. None of it stuck around. I just was like, this is lame. This is for old people. And then I didn't actually like think, oh, I should play music. This is fun for me until I was 27.
Wow.
I was dating a guy who was a guitar player, and he was like, "Here, let me show you how to play like 3 notes on a bass, and then we can play Green Day songs. We can play like Tom Petty songs together." And I was like, "Oh." And I immediately was like, "I love this, and I'm gonna make this my whole life now." I joined a band like within the month of him showing me like three basic notes. I was like, this is my instrument. Because I think I never no one ever had me like touch a bass before. I was like playing keyboards and stuff. And I guess like I think because there's so much like rhythm in things, I got into it because it's like rhythmic. I don't know.
Jury's still out on that, and we're still looking into it. So you really started with the bass. That was what kind of really pulled you in.
Yeah, that's when I was like, I'm gonna do this forever with the rest of my life now.
And were you? I mean, you already had a sense of what kind of music you really dug
hmm
going into it.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up around good music. My dad listened to like Frank Zappa and like yeah, Velvet Underground and the Cars, and he had great music taste, so I just was like I knew good music already. And then yeah, I was just like, "Oh, I love this. I'm into this. This is in my blood."
And was there anything at that time that was really speaking to you that you were really like, oh, I really dig this kind of music right now at
I
the age of
mean,
27.
I really liked playing Green Day songs. I think that was American Idiot had come out somewhat recently before that, and I was like obsessed with trying to sit and learn American Idiot songs. Um, yeah, so good. I and Green Day's easy to play. Like, I mean, they're not like the bass lines can be very difficult sometimes, but just the basic chords of it, just like playing along for fun, easy.
So, I mean, relatively soon you're joining different bands and whatnot.
hmm Yeah,
Wow,
I was in LA. My very first band was called Modern Time Machines. They're still around. They're still kicking. The
it's a
lead,
good band name.
yeah, Modern Time Machines. I think the singer picked that because he was like, man, there's just nothing else. He was like, that was the only website I could get or something. But it was like a shoegaze band. I went on my very first like tour. We like drove out to South by Southwest and back, so I guess that technically counts as a tour. And yeah, that was like my first foray into playing like live music in front of people as a band instead of just like piano recitals as a kid.
And how long was it from picking up the bass originally to going on the South by Southwest tour?
Like months. I think I looked back, I started playing in like August of 2010, and then by March of 2011 we were in South by playing to almost nobody.
Wow, that's so quick.
Yeah, I do things quick. I'm an impetuous person.
You go, now we need it. I mean, yesterday would have been better, but today we got to get it
Yeah.
done. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I had put this limit on myself when I was a kid of just like, that's not me. I'm not that. And if I had just opened myself up to it, I could have been playing music so much longer and like would have been able to have more enjoyment. Think that I have a regret that I didn't just like allow myself to do that as a kid more. Just sit around because there was instruments around. My uncle was a bass player. My dad was a keyboard player. There was always instruments sitting around, and I would like plunk around on them, like make little sounds on the keyboard and stuff. But I never thought like this could be mine. That I was always like, that's theirs. And I have something else that's mine. If I had just not limited myself that way, I could have been playing shows way earlier than 27.
Do you think that you would have a different relationship with music if you had picked it up earlier on and been playing through your formative years?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, who knows? Like, I guess I think my relationship with music is interesting because I've always had people teaching me their songs. Like starting at 27, that boyfriend taught me the Cars, taught me Tom Petty, taught me Green Day. Joined a band. They taught me their songs that they already had written. And then just from there on, I kept joining other bands and being taught their songs. I think if I had had the confidence as a kid to just sit in my room and play for fun, no one, like no stakes, no show to look forward to, not learning to perform, I could have developed a different relationship with music where I was uh like learning it on my own, like getting in the back door of it, like figuring out how songs are structured, like, and then maybe plinking around and like writing some of my own stuff. But because I have always like been someone's bass player, I've sort of just been like, well, I can write my bass parts and stuff. Like I can figure, I know how rock and roll songs and like boogie woogie and stuff goes. I know the basic tenets of like rhythm and blues, but I never like, I never was a songwriter. I think maybe if I had started earlier or had the confidence to start earlier, maybe I would have developed as a songwriter and not just as like a piece of a band. You know?
Mm, mhm, mhm, mhm. It's a good point. I'm not gonna refute that. I'm not gonna argue right now, Nikki. I'm not gonna. Later on, I will about that, but right now, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, we can fight
Yeah,
later.
we yeah, yeah. It's me versus the Witch Fingers, and please buy your tickets now. It's gonna be a great time. Uh, did you feel like at that point though, and you said 27, right?
Hmm.
At 27 years old, did you feel like looking back on it now at least beginning to play music and learning these songs, learning other people's songs, did that help solidify your relationship with music as a whole? Finally kind of getting into it and playing it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think it changed. Before then, I was a huge fan of music. I was going to shows constantly. I worked for Guitar Center, and I had a lot of like connections to the LA music scene through Guitar Center. I worked at the corporate office. And so I was always like getting free tickets to shows. Every time a band would come through, I was immediately like first in line to get tickets to the show. And when I started playing music, my whole priorities changed. And I was like, I want to be on the stage. I don't want to be watching other people do this. So, yeah, I think it like made me look at performing music from a different side where I'm like, I want that. I can do that. I started to be able to see myself as someone who can stand on stage and do that. So it was like everything in my life shifted and it became like, I need to go home and practice. I need to figure this out. And then I'm going to be the one trying to get people to come to my show.
So you got the job at Guitar Center, the the corporate headquarters, when you didn't play music.
Correct. Yeah. I got out of college. I went to college for art, uh, painting, drawing, and then majored in graphic design and illustration. And then immediately moved to LA. I went to college in Arizona, which is where I grew up mostly. Immediately moved to LA. I thought I'll get residency here and then I'll go to art school in California somewhere. And I had to get a job to like support myself for my year of getting residency. And the first job I got was at Guitar Center in their like internal communications department and doing graphic design for like calendars for managers and like merchandise and like store uniforms and like incentives hats like for the staff, not even for like any customers to see it at first. And yeah, everyone around me played music. People would like walk through the corporate office, like they'd walk into my office just like playing guitar, say something to me like, oh, do you have that project done? Walk back out, still playing guitar. Like it was very musical around me. So of course I eventually was like, all right, I'll try it. I guess this looks fun. I mean, like I said, I grew up with my dad playing music, so I already knew a lot about like a little bit about gear, and it was very comfortable for me to be around like rock and roll vibes, like Guitar Center, like rock and roll vibes. But
Right. I mean, known for their rock and roll vibes.
no,
If Guitar Center's known for anything, it's
it's
rock
rock
and
and
roll vibes. Yeah,
roll vibes. Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, deep in their culture. So yeah, it was comfortable. It was a really fun job. It was honestly like the craziest job I've ever had because I was a graphic designer. I tell people this story and it's crazy, but I was a graphic designer for the internal communications department. And somehow I got roped into helping them with like secret shopping footage, like getting secret shopper footage to like see like are the stores doing, the sales techniques that we're teaching them? And so I got to literally be a spy. Like I went with my boss and we flew around the country with secret cameras in our little glasses and like little lavalier mics, like recording audio. And we'd have to go to all the different regional stores and get secret camera footage. So we were like spies for, and I was just I just went to school for graphic design. I didn't have any qualifications for like filming or doing anything like this. And that was a crazy job. It was really fun though.
Normal trajectory, graphic design,
Yeah.
spying.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you see anything there that you're like, what the fuck is this on your on during your and I understand this is kind of, you know, confidential stuff because I don't want you to get in trouble with the agency of Guitar Center, but of GC if you will. But
Mhm.
during your time spying with GC, did you see anything you're like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
I think the one of the funny things that happened was we went into a drum department in like somewhere in Texas and we were talking to the sales team about like just dudes hanging out behind the counter about like a snare drum and he was like, "Dude, this is a great snare drum." He was trying to get us to buy it and he was like, "This is a really great snare drum. Like if I were you, I'd just buy it and flip it. Just like get it and then just go sell it for more because this is like a really good deal on it." And we had to go back and be like, that's not what you're supposed to say to the customers. You're not supposed to just tell them to flip the gear from the store. But then after a while, like doing the spy footage got like too depressing, and people were like, "We don't want to see all the mistakes that our stores are making." So we like switched it to, it was like right around Hurricane Katrina, and we switched it to like, okay, what we're gonna do instead of flying out and doing secret shopper footage is we're gonna fly out, we're gonna film ourselves giving prizes to customers, like one kid in Hurricane Katrina got like all his musical equipment like wiped out. His whole house got like flooded. And so we brought him like a guitar and every single kind of string and every like all these straps in a case and like a little mini practice amp. And we like completely stoked this kid and his family out because he was like, you know, they were all heartbroken about losing all of their stuff. And we are like, well, this is one thing we can do for you. And then that became like an even more fun thing than being a spy is like helping people.
Did you tell him like, hey man, this is a really great deal for this and you could flip
Yeah.
it for like way more?
You should take this free guitar and honestly just go sell it and like
Just go
to
sell
them
it.
too.
So I mean, you flew around to all different corners of the U.S. during your
Yeah.
missions, if you will. I think we can call them missions. Yeah, during your missions.
During our missions. Yeah, we flew to New Orleans during Mardi Gras one year and did secret camera footage out there and we were like, I guess maybe we'll just like go to Mardi Gras too. I don't know, like it's we're out here for work for our job, but yeah, that was back when Guitar Center was more lawless. I think they've tightened their belt on corporate
Yeah,
funding at this point, but back then it was like super fun. We got to go on all kinds of missions. That was probably one of the more fun ones.
the price of the snare drums have changed.
Mhm.
Just stuff's it's just a bit different now.
It's a bit different. Yeah. Inflation.
But and then laws. It was the wild west of the in the center. But now it's been tamed.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah,
just a tale as old as time. You know, it's bound to happen.
it's true.
So did your time with picking up the bass initially and working at Guitar Center, did those intertwine ever?
Yeah. The guy I was dating, I worked with actually. He was in the marketing department. We were different departments. So it wasn't a conflict of interest, but he was in marketing department, I was in the internal communications department. And of course, he played music and was into music. So yeah, he even got me my very first bass. He had a like a friend at Ernie Ball, and my very first bass he got me was like a 4-string Stingray bass that he like pulled some strings, no pun intended, and got me like a like custom, a really cute custom like ivory bass from Ernie Ball. So yeah, it overlapped for sure.
It would have been great if he used his discount at the store to support what okay, that's fine. That's okay too.
Damn it.
I so when you got to Los Angeles, at what time did you say I'm gonna go kind of more in this direction of music rather than graphic design or design?
I mean, as soon as I picked up the bass, I was like, this is it. I was like I said, priorities completely changed. Sure, I was at work and I was doing my job, but you better believe I was like using my discounts to get gear for me and everyone in my band. And if anyone I knew needed stuff. And then I was thinking about maybe I should do lighting. Oh, I could get lighting for the band. I'll get lighting stuff. Oh, maybe we need a new PA. Like priorities fully changed and I was like, yeah, completely focused on making music. And then I left that band, joined a different band, left that band, joined a different band. Eventually, I got to the point where I was like, I don't think I want to do graphic design anymore. I'm having way more fun traveling around and going on tours. Maybe I'll just not work anymore and like hands off on the graphic design. And that was like a crazy, crazy like shift to be like, it's like taking the training wheels off of like, can I support myself from just like going around the world and playing music? Like, is that okay? Am I allowed to not have like a day job? And then it's been working out for a few years now.
When did that become feasible for you? Like, okay, I'll just do music.
Think um when I was in Death Valley Girls, right before I joined Frankie, I saved up all my money. I was like, okay, I'm gonna just do like freelance design for a while and see if I can like pay my rent this way. And because Death Valley Girls was on tour so much that I was like gone most of the time anyway, and I had to always like be taking time off from my job. I was like, this is the right time. I'm gone so much. I feel like I have some money saved up. So that was probably like 2015, I would say. 2015 or 16, probably when I was like actually said, okay, I'm quitting my job. I was working for a music festival at the time. I was like, I'm quitting my job. I'm no longer working for you guys. I really, really mean it. Took me like 2 months to actually quit. Be like, no, 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 I really, really mean it this time. And then like not go back into the office and be an actual like touring musician and just like doing a little graphic design on the side. And then I think during the pandemic when the music industry, because I was still doing graphic design for like shows, when the music industry kind of shut down during the pandemic in 2020 and there was no shows happening and I wasn't getting any jobs for graphic design, that's when it really hit home of like, okay, I'm gonna like not do that anymore. I'm not gonna even accept any more jobs. And when jobs started coming back, I was like, no, I'm a full-time musician now. It worked.
I would say so. I believe you.
Hmm.
Going back to joining Death Valley Girls, how did that kind of happen? When did you join that band?
I joined that band. God, when did I join that band? Oh, yeah, that would have been in 2015, probably when I joined that band. I guess I joined that band in like the end of 2015. So I must have quit my job in 2016. But I met them through I had been in like a band that was on tour and it had a very, I won't name names, but it had a very dramatic ending. The singer was like, she kicked us all out of the band while we were on the road. She was like, get your shit. If you want to keep your equipment, you'll get it out of my van because I'm going home and you guys aren't coming with me. And she just like left the tour, left everyone on the side of the road, including like her boyfriend. She was just like, she had like an episode and was just like, I'm done. I don't even want to tour anymore. So my band had like a very dramatic breakup, got back to LA and was like looking for new bands to play in, kind of like moping around. And I ended up jamming with do you know the band Death Chant?
No, I feel like I know the name, but r real quick, just for because people are gonna be wondering who it was, we'll just say the name. It was Mariah Carey. So I don't, I
She's
think we could just say it.
diva. Yeah, this diva behavior.
We can just say it now. It's fine.
Typical. Typical.
I mean, I'm not, Mariah, you know me. I'm not picking sides, but she's a
She has
friend.
a reputation. Yeah, it's
She's a
fine.
friend. She's a friend, and I can't. Anyways, so Mariah kicks you off. And by the way, real quick, was it in another state that that was that
We
she
got
put the
kicked.
kibosh?
So the band was out of Arizona. I was living in LA. She left all of us in Anaheim,
Oh,
and
okay, all
we
right.
all had to figure out how to get home. So I had not a long journey to get back to LA, but the other people in the band had to go to San Diego, had to go back to Arizona. Like everyone had to like figure out how to get home from Anaheim. Um, so
Shout out to Anna. Yeah,
shout out the Home Goods parking lot in Anaheim. Thanks for, you got me.
good hangs, just great stuff there.
I remember we put all of our gear, we got it out of the van and put it into shopping carts. And then we just like shopping carted it over to the side of the road and everyone had to like call someone to come pick them up. And then we put our shopping cart and like put our gear into their car.
I mean, so that was a pretty abrupt end.
Yeah, pretty abrupt end. Got back to LA, was like putting out feelers. Like I'd still like to play music, even though that happened. And I ended up friend of a friend invited me to like jam at Death Chant's house. I guess most of the guys from Death Chant were living together, and it was TJ. Shout out TJ from Death Chant. Ended up like at his house jamming in his living room with a bunch of people. That was super fun. One of those people was like, "Oh, hey, you're a bass player looking for a band. I know a band looking for a bass player. They're called Death Valley Girls. I'm friends with their drummer, the kid, Laura Kelsey. Shout out." She was like, she knew them, they knew me. We ended up jamming together, and like immediately the day that we jammed together, they were like, "Do you want to go steady?" They took me into they took me, we went from the practice space into like Bonnie's bedroom and sat down, and she was like, "Do you want to go steady with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll go steady with you." And so like after first jam with them, I was in that band.
Wow. And shout out to Bonnie. Please go listen to that episode after you're done with all the Witch Fingers episodes.
She's a magical creature, and she has her own podcast.
Yes, Dead Valley Girls podcast, I believe is what it's called, right?
Mm-hmm.
DV uh GP.
DVGPC. Yeah.
That was Spanish, yes. Not C is not incorporated. That was like C
Yeah,
is
comma C.
yeah. How familiar were you with their catalog before joining the band?
I didn't know Death Valley Girls at all before joining them. I just they sent me some songs to learn and I learned the songs and I was like, "Oh, this is fun to play." It was like during like the Street Venom, I think Street Venom had come out, or Glow in the Dark was about to come out, and it was like super raw and like punky and like girl rock garage band kind of style stuff, and I was like, "Oh, I love all of this. Let's do this." And that was so fun, like playing with them. I think I was like in and out of that band for like 5 years or more. I love them.
Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, in leading up to this point, you kind of just bouncing around different bands and just being a hired gun.
Yeah, just like looking for my home. I didn't want to be like a hired gun. I never have had like the desire to be like jump in, learn a bunch of songs, play one show and then leave. I've always wanted to be in the band because I feel like I like I'm a lover and I want to like bring my whole heart to something, to a project. And I feel like I have a lot more to offer than just playing the bass. I like do merch, I do accounting, I do tour managing, I do art, I do like all kinds of.
Spying.
I also am a spy. I have experience spying.
Which, by
Um,
the way, we're gonna have to check if we can leave this in because this might blow a lot of different numbers. So if there's a jump cut here, I apologize.
I think the NDA is expired by now, so
Okay.
I feel like
Okay.
I can say anything I want.
Okay. Cool. And because I don't want GC coming after you or me. Fine institution, a little bit pricey on the snare drums nowadays, but that's another thing.
So true.
I mean, I'm not saying that I bought some and flipped it or advised anybody to do that in like Clearwater, Florida at any point.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I've never done that. But you're kind of in some of these bands and kind of just bouncing around, just trying to find a more steady thing.
I mean, everything just is organic and happened organically. I truly believe in manifestation, and I had written down all of the things that I wanted in my journal, like the things that I wanted to manifest for myself. And like, sure enough, go down the list, like everything got checked off, like meeting the partner that I wanted, being in the band that I wanted, like touring the world the way that I wanted, all the things that I asked for, I got. So
So when it was time to make new songs with Death Valley Girls, did you have any trepidation kind of coming in and expressing your ideas of where you wanted to take a song or an idea that you had?
I think I always just wanted to do a good job. I always wanted to like be the bass player they wanted me to be. So I was always listening. But yeah, I didn't have any, I was a moldable piece of clay. I was like, what do you need? What can I offer? What can be brought? And I listened to like, the new directions that Bonnie wanted to try. And I was like, how can I support? How can I like shore up, my area, my department? What can I do to like make my department shine in this song? And we recorded with Mark Rains at Station House Studio down in Echo Park, who's like honestly one of the best people I've ever worked with recording wise, and who like showed me how to make a bass sound really fucking sick. I feel like I developed my sound and my tone by hearing how he interpreted my sound and my tone. And immediately after we recorded with him, I went out and like bought as close as I could to like all of the gear that we use for recording those songs. So love Mark Rain.
Did you get any of that gear from Guitar Center?
Oh, fucking for sure. I still had friends there. You don't think I was like calling in getting the employee discounts?
As you should have.
Sure.
As I mean, as a former spy, it's like it's once a spy, always a spy kind of a thing.
Always a spy. Yeah,
I believe.
for a long time after I left Guitar Center, I had a hard time paying full price for gear. It's really hard to quit that employee discount.
Do you still have a number that you could throw out there if you needed to go today? If you needed to get
I still
something,
remember my employee number. I know some people who got their employee numbers tattooed on them, but I can't give you my employee number.
that's hardcore. No, no, no. Join us on the Patreon to find those numbers. Um, so you said 2015-ish to 2020 is like this timeline roughly
Yeah,
thereabouts.
that's when 2015 I joined Death Valley Girls, probably I think in around December. And then I joined Frankie in 2020, right before the pandemic happened, right before everything shut down. And then I've been in Frankie for the past 4 years.
Wow. Did your time with Death Valley Girls and Frankie interlap or intertwine at all?
Well, so I mean, I was gonna try to do both. I had shows on the books with both and wanted to like fulfill my commitments with Death Valley Girls. I think we were gonna go to South by Southwest. I think we were gonna go do Nelsonville Music Festival. We had a bunch of like tickets booked. Then the pandemic happened, just like put the end to everything. And then it was kind of like a weird time to announce I'm leaving one band and joining a different band. So we just sort of were like, let's just let it ride. And I was kind of technically in both bands for a while until it became time to start touring again. And it was like, okay, they were like, you can't tour with us. And I was like, I can't be in two places at once. I gotta pick Frankie. Sorry. No hard feelings.
So before joining Frankie, uh, were you already doing some art for them before playing with them or in their band?
Yeah,
In the band?
absolutely. I was doing as much art for them as I could because they were like one of my favorite bands and I loved all the people in the band. So I would make art for them. I would like come and join up with them on tour. I helped tour manage. I got into photography, started taking photos of them. Did yeah, merch design, photos, graphic design. There was times where they'd be on the road and they'd be like I'd be in my tour van with Death Valley Girls, they'd be in their tour van, and they'd be like, "Oh shit, we just got a show offer. Can you make us a flyer real quick?" And so I'd be like making a flyer in the back of the DVG van, then like wait to get to Wi-Fi, send it to them, and then they'd post it up. I was like always trying to help out as much as I could because I wanted them to thrive.
And did you initially cross paths with them when they were in LA, when they moved to LA after that? Or were they still in Indiana at the
So
time?
I met them right after they moved to LA. And so my band, the one that left me on the side of the road, and
Again,
they
well, just Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey.
Sure.
So Frankie has like a brother band where all the members were kind of intertwined called Triptides.
Yeah,
So
shout out to Triptides too. Amazing band.
shout out Triptides. So Triptides and my band Mariah, we were all on the road together for 2 weeks. So right when I got kicked out of that band, I even was like, I actually jammed with them. I jammed. So I got back from that being kicked out of the band before I even joined Death Valley Girls, before I even played with Death Valley Girls. Dylan from Frankie was like, "Hey, I'm gonna play a show. Like all the other guys from Frankie are out on the road with Triptides right now. So I'm gonna play a solo show, just like as Dylan Sizemore playing Frankie and the Witch Fingers songs. Do you want to learn some of my songs and play bass with me?" So I played a show with him, just the two of us, with like down somewhere in like Santa Ana or something like that, while all the other guys in Frankie were like out on the road. And then I joined Death Valley Girls and was in Death Valley Girls. And then even another time they hit me up and they were like, "Okay, Frankie's gonna be on tour, but Alex, the bass player, has to go to his sister's wedding. So there's one show he's got to miss. It's like one of our biggest shows of the tour. It's in Chicago. Do you think you could learn all the songs in the set, fly out and play one show with us?" So I did that. I learned all the Frankie songs, like practiced my ass off, flew out to Chicago, played one show with them so Alex could go to his sister's wedding, and then flew back. So it was kind of like, I don't know. I was kind of in training for many years before I ever even like thought that it was a possibility that I would join the band.
You were on different missions at this point,
We were on different separate missions, yeah. I
right?
was
And
like, fully on the Death Valley Girls mission, like committed to that. So it never even like entered my mind that I might join Frankie. But then when Alex left, they were like, "Who do we know that plays bass and like already knows most of our songs? Oh, we should ask Pickle."
and you said I am a former spy. I can definitely do this, no problem.
Yeah, I said, "Send me the dossier."
So
And
slide me the DOS. Yeah.
yeah.
So initially, you came into contact with Frankie when they came out to California.
Yeah, they had just moved to town, like were they moved in waves. I think Josh and Glenn, who were both in Frankie and both in Triptides at the time, moved first, and then Dylan was like wrapping up a few more shows in Bloomington with like some of the other former members of Frankie. I think he did a few recordings and stuff, and then he moved out maybe like a little less than a year later after them. So I met Triptides, and then literally the like days after Dylan moved to LA, I met Dylan because again, Mariah and Triptides were on tour together. And then Dylan moved to town and we all like convened in the Ace Hotel in Palm Springs for like our last show together. And I remember meeting Dylan like out by the pool. Josh was like, "Hey, this is my friend Dylan. He's in band Frankie and the Witch Fingers." I was like, "Hi, nice to meet you."
Perfect impression of Josh, by the way. I mean,
Hey,
please go
what's
back and
up?
listen. Yeah.
Hey, I'm Josh. Hey, what's up?
Wow. Is he? I could have sworn he was just here. Shout out to Josh. Shout out to Dylan.
Shouts out Josh.
And Glenn. Fantastic, fantastic musician
Oh
as
my
well.
God, yeah. Glenn's so talented. They're all so talented, and they were so talented together and talented separately. Feel very lucky to have met them and know them and get to play music with them.
So I just saw him recently with a Levitation Room.
Oh
He was
yeah,
doing some shows with them. Ooh,
he's been keys with them. In Deep Cut, I was in a band with Gabe and John from Levitation Room. We had a band with another guy, Chris, who used to be in Levitation Room, called our band was called the Mad Walls.
going back to before you're playing in Frankie, you're doing art and such for them.
Yeah, I was always like helping out, doing art. There's like, I don't know, million photos. I remember like making a patch design for them like million years ago. I remember, yeah, but I had like a brief foray into photography. I went to Europe with them and like did photos, did merch, sold merch for them. There was a time where their tour manager kind of just like dropped the ball and like stopped doing his job partially through the tour and got them to one of their shows late so that they missed their guarantee. They like one of the biggest guarantees on the tour. It was like such a heartbreak. And I was like, "Do you want me to just like tour manage? Because this guy's not really doing it." So I just like any way that I could help, I always was like stepping up and trying to help. But doing art, yeah, for sure. Did art. Me and Dylan did a lot of like collab posters and things like that because Dylan's an artist too, and he loves to like draw, but isn't very like good on the computer. And I'm more good on the computer, so I would like be like, you draw it, and then we'll like piece it together on the computer, make collages and things.
The both of you together. That's the dream team right there.
Dream team, yeah,
But your creativeness in these other like art and graphic design and designing in general, that stemmed way before your interest in music blossomed, right?
for sure. Yeah, I made art my entire childhood, like my whole life. Art was like the biggest, most important thing for me until I found music. I was like, in high school, I ate lunch in the art room. In summer, I would take art classes or like help out volunteering for art classes to like do cleanup. And I did like AP art classes. I was like such an overachiever and did like, I don't know, always was in doing summer school classes and stuff, like trying to just do more art or like constantly be taking art classes. And I had like a like internal drive of just make art every day. That was like my mantra. Make art every day. Um, until I found music and then I was like, oh God, I gotta expand that.
Was there a point when both these things for art and music merged eventually?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I love I there is no separation for me. I still I was working on a poster last night for the band. Like I'm I feel like the art is just making the music visible. Like you in it's magic. Like the music, you're like conjuring something from nothing. You're like taking ideas that you have in your head and making them into something tangible so other people can experience it. And then I feel like music is abstract and this like intangible substance. And you take that, the inspiration from that, and turn it into art, which is something that you can like touch and hold and see. Um, like it makes it way more tangible, but it's all one thing. Like they're all constantly like talking to each other and inspired by each other and like feeding off of each other. Like I don't know any artists, even people who are just like strictly visual artists. I don't know any visual artists who don't make art without listening to music while they're working. Doesn't everybody do that? I think they do.
Not really a big fan of music, so I can't really say. But so these different mediums always tend to inspire one another, or
Yeah,
you seem to get some inspiration from
absolutely.
each of the other ones.
I think that like for me, coming from like a marketing background and like marketing and art being like hand in hand in my brain, I feel like making posters, making merch, making things for bands, it's like a type of magic. Like you make a poster to show people this is what it's going to feel like when you come to this show. Look at this art. Look at the way it makes you feel. Those are the feelings that you'll experience if you come to this show. Come to this show, and then you like lure people in with like, oh, do you like feeling dangerous? Do you like feeling happy? Do you like feeling sexy? Do you like feeling mysterious? Those are all the feelings you're going to feel if you come tonight to come out to the show. And you'll be at the show, you hear the music, you feel all those feelings again. Sexy, mysterious, whatever. Like it's all the same thing.
So it's just spy techniques brought into visual art.
Yeah. Yeah.
So does a drawing or piece of art, maybe not even yours, tend to inspire you to sit down and write something or hash out an idea?
Hmm.
Or is it more of the reverse of like a song that you're listening to tends to inspire a drawing or a painting or something?
It's more that way for me. I'm not much of a songwriter. I'm mostly like I'm mostly like a part of a whole, and I like play when I play music, I'm playing in the context of other people playing. I rarely just sit and play bass by myself or whatever. So it's really more like the other way. Like we've created a song, we've created an album, we've like written a piece and a composition together. Now we have to figure out what does that look like? Like what's the visual representation of what it is that we just made? Is it drippy and sludgy? Is it like sharp and pointy? Is it like neon and crazy? Is it more like muted and subdued? Like those, it always really goes that one way for me. I mean, hopefully eventually it gets to the point where I'm like, see something amazing and inspiring and breathtaking, and I write a song about it and bring it to the guys, and I'm like, what do you guys think? Here's my song that I wrote. But mostly it's like when we write together, it's mostly like it starts with a jam, or it starts with like a riff, or it starts with a little seed, and then you like build around that little seed. So like the music is kind of always the central point, whether it's making music around that or making art from that. It's like starts with a little spark of an idea musically.
Are you able to see where a song stemmed from, the little spark that it generated it, or was the catalyst for it?
It depends on the song. I think like in my experience in writing with Frankie, it's always like a different thing that inspires it. So it can come from anywhere. One of my favorite ways of coming up with songs in this band is when we all just sort of get into a room and start jamming, and we will record like an hour long jam and then go back in and listen and find little pieces of it that seem interesting. Like, oh, that pattern was interesting. Oh, that riff was interesting. That's weird how that rhythm overlaid this other rhythm in this interesting way, and like pull out chunks of that and then build a song around that spark. That I like that. To me, that feels like a very like collaborative effort where we're all just sort of like being raw and like improvising and playing whatever just like pops into our head. But I mean, songs can come from anywhere. Like a lot of times Dylan will come in with an idea and be like, he'll have a lyric, or he'll have like a repeating little like rhythmic guitar phrase or something that he's like, I just really want to write something that's, you know, polyrhythmic, or I want to write something that is like leaves a lot of space. I want to experiment with like leaving a lot of space. Like what would you guys think about, trying to write a song where there's actually a lot of like absence of playing? Wouldn't that be interesting? Um, so yeah, it just depends on the song where the spark comes from, but I don't know.
Do you feel like the initial seed of a song tends to sometimes drastically change when you're kind of figuring out what it is, or formulating it more as time goes on? Or is it or is it sometimes just little like changes in like little kind of whatever it might be, like a note here or a little, a strum here or whatever it might be?
Oh, all the time. I think that it's a organic like evolution, and you sort of have to resign yourself to that. Like you can't hold on to it. You can't be like, no, it has to sound this way. You have to know that when you're collaborating with other people, that they're going to add their flavor to it, and it's going to change as it continues to grow, and there's going to be multiple revisions. Like it's going to start one place and it's going to end up a completely different place that you don't expect. Like the more you try to hang on to it and be like, no, I had this vision and we have to do it this way, the like more you kill the spark and you kill the creativity, and you kind of like isolate yourself from the other people who are wanting to contribute too. You can't make someone, like something a certain way. You have to be open to letting them like add their flair to it, and then like pull out like you know, the
Best
best
of.
the best of, yeah. Be like, oh, I like that thing that you did there. What if we did more of that, and be surprised and like enjoy the surprises.
And you don't enjoy the surprises. Go,
No, I
what
hate it.
the fuck?
Nope. I do not want to be surprised. Do not surprise me. I want it to be one way and one way only. My way
Uh,
or the highway.
yes, and everybody has understood that eventually.
Yeah.
Mariah didn't, but
Yeah, that's where me and Mariah didn't see eye to eye.
um, do you recall the first song that you wrote with Frankie?
Cookin', I think. That was when Shaughnessy was in the band. I think we wrote like Cookin' and Tracksuit together. I don't know. I don't have the best memory. Josh would tell you for certain, but I
You
think
know,
it.
everybody says this about Josh, best memory in the game.
Oh yeah, he's definitely got the best memory.
And I mean, did you kind of get the feel of what where everybody was coming from musically during that process of the first writing session?
Well, so when we wrote Cookin', that was one of those songs I think that came out of jamming. And we had like an old practice space where we used to go in for hours and we'd jam so long, my hands would be tired, I'd be sweating. We'd come out and be like, how long do you think that one just was? And it would be like, that was 90 minutes. We didn't even stop the entire time. That was
I was hoping you were gonna say like that was 7 minutes.
that was a 7-minute jam.
That was 7 minutes, 30 seconds on the dot.
And we wrote the song from beginning to end and we played it perfectly immediately.
Yeah,
No,
because and let's just say for the people at home, it was very quick and it's
yeah,
very, 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 very easy. It's
yeah.
just that's the way that Witch Fingers does it.
And everybody knows their parts immediately and we just play them in perfect succession.
Mhm.
And
Well, I
then you
mean,
have
like it's a one time to figure out where you're gonna go, where everybody else is gonna go, and then you reconvene the
yeah.
second time.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe two takes, but pretty much just one.
That's sometimes that's like if everybody's like kind of distracted, but usually you guys are locked in,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
So
that's
fun.
what people need to understand about this band.
Hmm.
Anyways,
That's what you need to know about us.
yeah. I mean, and now I mean I got everybody on. I understand how the world works around the Witch Fingers. Totally understand.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
everyone's going to corroborate exactly what I just said. 100% truth.
Yes. Do you find it difficult to compose songs in when you're in there and you're working with everybody, or is that more of a relatively easier um piece of the puzzle of being in a band or making music for you?
Mm, the writing process can be super fun and rewarding, and it can also be super like I have a tendency, I think, to beat myself up a lot. And so I can have like a hard time with it. So for me, it's both. I don't think it's that way for everybody. I think everyone has their own like different, like attitude towards the writing process. But for me, when things are like gelling and people are liking the things that I'm contributing and like hearing my thoughts on how I think things should go, that's when like it feels like we're in a good flow. But I think there's times where I'm like mad that I'm not, coming up with something more interesting or mad that I'm like I don't have a great memory. So I write a lot of notes down. So I'll be like beating myself up like, "Oh, how many times does that section happen? How many parts in are we right now?" And I'll do a lot of like self-judgment and it's not helpful. It's
No.
not like not fun. So I'm still unlearning that, but really you unlearn that by doing it. So the more we do it, the more I have time to like practice being like, go with the flow, just let yourself figure it out.
And then in the back of my mind, you're like, what the fuck? Get it together.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Go
we're
look in the mirror and I'm like, come on,
come on.
get it together.
What are you doing?
I'm working on it. I'm working on the letting myself make mistakes is like a good it's a journey. Not I'm not at the end yet. I don't know if I'll ever be at the end yet, but I'm like,
Do you feel like you're at least like a little bit past the start though?
yes, for
Okay.
sure. I've I've been working on this a while and I've been working on it hard. Is like not beating yourself up and not judging yourself. It's like I think it'll be a lifelong journey for me, but I it's not I'm deep into it. I'm feel pretty good about it. I think I'm doing a pretty good job thus far.
That was my follow-up question. Do you feel pretty good about it? So I asked Nick this when he was on there the last time that he was on here. And I asked him, because you've been in the band for 4 or 5-ish years now.
Mhm.
does it feel like you've been a part of a part of this group longer than that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I met them in 2015 and like was very heavily involved in like helping being I call it like a band best friend. I was best friends with them since like yeah, back in the end of 2015 or like fall of 2015, so we go way back. Yeah, even before officially joining and feeling like I'm in this band and this is like, you know, I'm a contributing part of this. I was still like best friends since the early days.
How did you feel when Nick finally joined and that he was in 2021 or
Yeah, I think
so, or
20,
two perhaps?
yeah, maybe 2022, I think. I'm so bad with dates and times, but
I know, and I'm not asking for a precise. I know I'm not speaking to Josh right now, but just off the hip, 21, 22 ish is
yeah,
when he came in.
I think 2022 sounds right to me, or maybe the very end of 2021 or something like that. How did I feel when Nick joined the band? Fuck that guy. No, I love Nick and I was
Somebody
super.
had to fucking say it. That's right, Nick.
No, I love Nick and he has completely changed the sound of the band. He's like brought so much energy and stuff to it. So in the beginning, let's see, like how did I feel? I felt excited to play with someone who was like young and energetic and who was like he also I think is very similar to me in that he's like pushing himself to like do better, constantly like trying to, like push himself harder. So it was nice to be around someone with that energy that wanted to like very proactive and like pushing forward. And I mean his drumming is just immaculate. He's an amazing drummer. He's fun to play with in the rhythm section. He definitely keeps me on my toes because he comes from a punk background, like more so than I ever did. So he's like fast, fast, fast. I want to go fast. So he's always like pushing me, like not just in terms of complexity, but also in terms of like tempo to like keep up, which I think is good. Like I think that it's helped me become a better bass player. I don't know. I could go on and on saying nice things about Nick, but I appreciate him so much.
Please don't tell him that I said this, but yeah, one of the best drummers I've seen live.
Nick, don't listen to this.
Yeah. No, Nick, hey, bounce. No, he's terrific. Really, really great musician. Do you do you think that in terms of bringing new energy in is how you felt when he joined? Do you feel like that's how Josh and Dylan felt when you joined? That there was some new life being breathed into this?
I don't know. I'm not sure about how they felt when I joined the band. I think it was such a weird time when they invited me to join. We had like shows booked and then immediately everything shut down. So it was like, yes, go, go, go. Oh no, never mind. So I think they were excited and like we all were excited to like try something new and then we all sort of got our dreams crushed at once, like having the pandemic bring all shows to a grinding halt. But I also know like I knew them. We toured together. Like I would go on the road with them. Dylan would fly out and come on the road with Death Valley Girls sometimes. Like
Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey. We go way back to the Mariah Carey days. So like I think it was comfortable. I think it felt comfortable and like a natural transition. I know it did on my end. I don't know how it felt from their end. But it was like good. It was a bittersweet to like be excited to start this thing together and then nope, no shows.
Until there was and you guys have been like two or three, right? Since then?
Oh yeah, just like two or three. We like to save it up and just like really go hard, but just like once a year.
That's called creating mystique, you know?
You got to keep them wanting more. That's what they say.
Oasis is doing it, you know?
Yeah, we're on the Oasis trajectory.
They're opening up for you, if I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken.
they're actually opening for us on our one show this year.
At the
Hollywood?
observatory, oh, I was gonna say observatory in Santa Ana. I thought I must have had the dates wrong. And yeah, that'll be linked below for the Oasis Frankie the Witch Fingers shows. And Mariah Carey is oh
She's
she's
DJing.
wow, okay. Hey, all right.
We buried the hatchet. She'll be
Okay.
DJing between sets. We're good now. And the after party.
Classic MC style, just DJing. Ah,
Classic.
lovely. Um, yeah, do you feel like once Nick came in, did you feel like you guys were kind of pushing in a new direction sonically from what was being done before?
I mean, I think the band as a whole was like into new things. It's something that's like very typical of Frankie is that every album's going to sound different. Every album's going to be something new. And I think Dylan and Josh were both into trying something else out and were excited and exhilarated to have like new people to play with. So it wasn't necessarily, I mean, it could partially, we could take some credit for it, but I think also like the band as a whole, like everybody was into different stuff. That when we joined the band, I know that everyone was really into Afrobeat and was really turned on by the way Nick has like a lot of experience with soul and Afrobeat music and like cumbia and stuff. And so we were like, let's test that out. Let's like push in that direction. So a lot of the first writing that we did for Data Doom together was very Afrobeat inspired. And I grew up with my mom actually and my stepdad do African like West African dance or drumming workshops. They teach like traditional West African rhythms. So like I had a love for that too. So we were all like meeting in this place of Afrobeat. Now, like totally different. The writing that we've done since then is like way more angular, way more like punk. Like I think every album is always going to be something different, no matter who's new and who's not new, and who it's just everybody's like into different things at different times.
Are you always trying to go in a new direction just with your solo stuff with your art and your creativeness um separate from the band?
That's a good, really good question. I
Thank you. That's two good questions in one pot. That's a new record.
it too.
Two
Yeah,
good ones.
I feel like some of the things that I've been thinking about in terms of my art is like uh breaking outside of perfectionism. I think I'm trying to do that musically too. I'm trying to stop beating myself up for being so perfect. And I'm also trying that in my art. So I know the programs that I use well. I know the style that I've been using well. And I can like make something that's perfectly centered or perfectly right aligned or everything is like perfectly spaced in between every single thing. And the experiment that I'm trying to do now is to like fuck shit up, like work against my own like desire for perfection and be like, no, let's purposely make this off center. Let's purposely like skew the text. Let's purposely, have things that are like don't make sense that are up in this corner and things that are running off the page. Like work against your instincts, like work against what it is that you want to do to like make everything perfect. And I think I'm kind of trying to like break outside that in terms of music too. Um, does that answer your question?
No, I it There was a tremendous answer.
Thanks.
Um, do you ever step away from creativity for an extended amount of time, or is it kind of short breaks off or away from doing art? We'll just say as an umbrella term.
Well, I think I work for myself, so I'm all because when you work for yourself, I think you're always kind of working. What I am and my work is creative. I am doing music, I am doing art to make money and support myself. But what I'm trying to do now is find other creative things that are non-monetary. So like I've been taking a ceramics class. I haven't told anybody about it. I'm just doing it for me, just for fun. And
Might need to bleep it though, correct? Might need to cut that part out.
ceramics class is very, yeah, don't tell anybody. But I
Okay, so if you're listening to this, don't tell anybody.
don't listen to this part.
Don't listen to this part. Just tune it
Um,
out.
that it's something that I'm not like naturally good at. It's something that takes a lot of practice and skill to like get good at like throwing pots. It's a lot of like muscle memory and I'm suck at it. I'm really bad at it. And I'm kind of leaning into that and I'm like that's good. I want to do something that I'm like making something creative that there's absolutely no stakes. Like this doesn't have to be good. Nobody's going to see it. and I don't need someone to buy this in order to pay my rent. So I'm just doing it for me for the fun of it.
We will
That's
have pictures of those bowls.
please don't. They're
We're
so
gonna
bad.
we're
They're
gonna
so
we
misshapen.
we got our own spy in the ceramics class that has been
No,
secretly taking pictures on
you're
a
good. You're good. Is this Nardwar? You're good.
no, it is not Nardwar. Nardwar gets a lot of information from me. That's just a little bit of behind the scenes work
Oh,
there. Yeah, that's how
heck.
good I am. Yeah. Does consistently working on something, whether it be for monetary value or not, does that keep the creative flow moving consistently?
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, you're like when you are a creative person, you're constantly tapped into the river of creative energy that like flows below all of us. So there's creativity in everything and inspiration in everything. It's almost more of a challenge to like try to take a break from it and like literally just relax and not be inspired and not look at things in terms of art. Um, so yeah, it everything is creative energy, and there is always like inspiration flying at you from some sort of a source. And it's almost like you kind of have to, you as an artist, you have to make, like, it's your directive, prime directive is to like make something, do something, do art every day. Like that's what my mantra has been my whole life: do art every day in some way, shape, or form. Like even if it's just cooking a cool meal that you're proud of, like that's creative, even
That's
if
a
it's
long mantra, but I understand. Yeah, so on top of all these other endeavors, Church of Pickle is also what you're the head of.
I am. Amen. Yeah, Church of Pickle is my merch company that I started also in 2020. Like super good time to start a
A
project.
bunch of different projects,
Bunch of
yes.
different projects, just like let's go. Yeah, I started a merch company right before the pandemic hit. It was kind of like I just was like, I'm pretty good at this. I should try doing this. And I had made merch for like all the different, I worked for Guitar Center, I worked for a bunch of different festivals. Like I had all these contacts making merch. I always made merch for like my bands, and I was like, what if I just made merch to make merch? And like if people could come to me and I could make it for them. So I started the company right before the pandemic hit, and that was kind of perfect timing because then I knew all these bands who I was friends with who had all this merch just sitting in their tour vans not being sold. And I was like, hey, I started a website. I can sell your merch for you. So everyone would like mail me boxes of their merch and I would put it up for sale. So I could at least like help my friends make some money while they weren't touring and being able to play shows. And then it's just kind of like flowed from there. I still make merch for like Levitation Room and other friends' bands. People reach out to me like, "Can you do a project?" But like honestly, Frankie like takes up so much of my like time and effort for Church of Pickle that it's like very focused on Frankie at the moment.
And where did the name come from? Where did the Church of Pickle name come from? This moniker, if you will, that you've adopted of pickle, even outside of the church.
Oh, the name Pickle. My grandma called me Nikki Pickle. My name's Nicole. And my grandma called me Nikki Pickle growing up because I lived in Arizona and every summer I spent the entire summer in the pool. And the best snack when you're in the hot sun in the pool all day is to eat a pickle. So I just ate like pickles, just like pounded pickles every day, like sweat and sweat out in the pool and just like replenishing those electrolytes with cold, delicious pickles from the fridge. So my grandma named me Nikki Pickle. Like every time I'd go to their house, they'd be like, "There's pickles in the fridge," like Nikki Pickle. So when I joined Death Valley Girls, they were like, Bonnie's really into nicknames. Like the drummer was the kid, and she was like, what's your nickname? And I was like, my grandma called me Nikki Pickle, so she started calling me Pickle, and it just like stuck from there. And it's been my screen name forever, Nikki Pickle. So then yeah, when I was looking for a name for my merch company, I knew it had to do with me, with pickle. And I was like, should it be, House of Pickle? Should it be, like the place of pickle? I had like all these different like things listed out, like that were somehow fashion related and somehow pickle related. And Dylan was the one that was like, "How about Church of Pickle? That's kind of psychedelic, you know, like it's like a house of worshiping, but it's for pickles." And I was like, okay, I like that. So I did that.
I wanted to circle back to 3 hours ago when we started this podcast. We started by saying, that you really weren't interested in music, but you came from a music background. How
Mhm.
does how do your folks in your family feel about you finally adopting playing music and having music play a huge part in your life now?
I mean, they're into it.
Were they surprised when you told them, "Hey, no, I'm in these bands now," and blah blah blah?
So my mom is like, she's so grateful and like such a wonderful person, and she's like, both her kids. My brother is also in bands. He's a drummer and he's in the band Spiritual Cramp.
I was gonna say, I thought, yeah, it's Spiritual Cramps rad. So
Yeah.
go go. Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of stuff to listen to if you're listening to this podcast. All the episodes that we talked about, and then Spiritual Cramp,
Mhm.
and and that's it. And we're not asking for that much.
It's the least you could do.
Please.
Go listen to Spiritual Cramp on Spotify. Jeez. Um,
Spotify, everywhere, wherever you get your music. That's where you can
also
find them.
other places. Apple.
YouTube,
Yeah, hop on YouTube. Check out Spiritual Cramp. Watch
Deezer, whatever that is, Tidal,
Get on SoundCloud and search for Spiritual Cramp right now.
SoundCloud, Zune, not Zoom, Zune.
Yeah, so my brother and I both play music, and my mom is like, I don't think she's surprised in any way. My dad passed away during the pandemic again in 2020, crazy year for everything. He passed away then, but before he died, he knew that both my brother and I were in the music industry, and I think he was like, hell yeah. The last conversation I had with him was when I was driving home from filming the Frankie and the Witch Fingers live or levitation live session during the pandemic. I was like calling him and I was like, "We just filmed this thing and I can't wait for you to see it." And like I was playing the amp that you gave me. We were like talking about gear. He was like a big gear head, so we talked about all the gear and stuff. So he was down for the cause. He was supportive of the rock and roll for sure.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hmm.
That's fantastic.
Hmm.
Um, Nikki, I really appreciate you coming on here. It really does mean a lot to me that everybody from Witch Fingers has been on. It's only a very few amount of bands, maybe just two or so, that every member has been on, and I'm glad that Frankie is now one of those bands. So I really appreciate you coming on. It means a
Oh,
lot to me.
I think that's a testament to your podcast and how fun you are to talk to, more so than us in the bands. Is we people do the podcast and then they're like, "That was super fun. You should do that too." So thank
I
you.
will I will pay all of you accordingly. I just send me the Zells. No, I really greatly appreciate everybody for coming on. And before I let you go, we got some promo to do here. So let's Church of Pickle is the best way to get the merch for Frankie and the Witch Fingers as of right now, right?
Yep, that's a
And
great.
you work with Greenway through that as well, right?
Yeah, Greenway is like our label, but it's also our best friends. And like literally just got off a phone call with Greenway before I got on this call with you. So you can buy our music on Greenway. Like any new releases are all going to be coming out through Greenway or Reverberation Appreciation Society.
I think it's greenwayrex.com. Whatever the exact URL is will be linked below. Churchofpickle.com.
Hmm.
And there's an Instagram, and is it at Church of Pickle as well?
Yep. Yep.
Perfect. And of course, go support Greenway as well. Tons of great bands coming out of there constantly.
Oh yeah.
Greenway Records on Instagram as well, I believe is the handle. And
Hmm.
this is just coming from I usually write this stuff down. I did not have time to write it down. It's coming off the top of my head
Oh,
here.
you're
So
nailing
hey,
it.
I'm trying here. Yeah, and Frankie the Witch Fingers music is streaming everywhere, wherever people get their music. That's where they can find it.
Mhm.
Frankie The Witch Fingers on Instagram to keep up to date with news, shows, tours, all that good stuff is there, right?
Yep. So true.
And your Instagram at Nikki Pickle on
Yeah.
Instagram,
Nailed it.
all one word, correct?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Okay. And is there anything else I'm forgetting? Because again, this is off the top of my head. That's all I could
You
remember.
hit. Yeah, I think you hit all the ways to find us. It honestly, if you just go to one of those spots, you'll find all the other stuff. We're all linked to each other.
And all those links and everything that I fucked up on will be linked below. And I'll be kicking myself if I got any of that wrong.
Well, I
Yeah,
demand perfection, so you
no,
should.
hey, I understand. And I've been working on just trying to accept nothing but perfection, opposite to you.
Yeah,
No,
good. You should do that.
yeah, hey, I'm working on it. It's a journey. It's a journey.
Well, you're doing a terrible job, so you should be
Thank
good.
you. Thank you. Nikki, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you coming on here. I'm gonna stop recording this and I'll talk to you in a minute, okay?
Okay, thank you for having me.
Alrighty, thank you.